Is there any other rookie that you're can't wait to see and see what they're going to prove on the field?
Yeah, you mentioned Josh Paschal. Paschal, I think is how you say his last name. I was very excited to see that they were able to land him from Kentucky. Again, I'm very enthralled with the D-line because I think that's super important in the NFL nowadays. You have to have more. You can't just have one edge rusher. You really need two, and you need an anchor in the middle to push from the D tackles to get them one-on-one matchups. And I think he's a perfect example of what they could use for that. He's a good bull rush technique edge rusher. Got some speed to him, got a nice bend as well around the edge. We saw him against good competition as well. So I'm really high on seeing what he can provide. And again, Rodriguez, who we talked about as well. Again, he seems like a spark plug type of player that I think really fits through the identity of this team. Some of that Dan Campbell would really get behind. So those are two of the guys I'm really excited to check out, including Houston as well from Jackson State.
I am very much looking forward to seeing, I think you're right, I think it is Paschal, because when the draft happened, I know a lot of casual fans are like, we just took an edge. Why do we need another edge? And so they're assuming we're just going to have the same thing on each side. And that's very much not the case. And you're going to see this when you watch Hard Knocks. Hutchinson and Paschal are very different players. Yes. Hutch is a true edge. Yep. He's going to burn you with speed off the end and get past the defender that way. Maybe use a swim move, maybe hook underneath them and go. But Paschal is power and speed, and he uses it in different ways. He doesn't just come from the edge. He comes from the different gaps, and he's able to use that ability. And the Lions need this. Let me remind you guys out there that 27.5 points per game, 31st in the league. That was our defense last year. 29th in pressure percentages and 30th in sacks last season. We need all the help we can get, and I'm absolutely with you about it as far as the trenches. I have always thought building in and going out from there. You start on the offensive and defensive lines, you build those, and then you build the teams behind them on each side, and that's how you build a championship football team. It's been proven time and time again, and we absolutely need this. And I think what a lot of fans are going to see when they watch Hard Knocks is that Paschal and Hutchinson are not the same kind of player. They're both great players, and they both have potential to be great in the NFL, but they are not the same player.
No, they're going to show that the Lions can be a little bit more versatile because you see guys like, Grant, we're not saying this is who he can be, but you see the ability of guys like Aaron Donald to not just rush from the middle, but take you from the outside as well. Seeing that their skill set complements each other like that, you can see them mixing and matching and finding different creative stunts to use and throw offenses off. And I think you have that if they pan out correctly. You just said it. Hutchinson's going to get all the talk. We know what we're going to see from him, but whoever anchors that other side is massive. That's very important. I think Charles Harris had a really good, not breakout, but he was very impressive from what we expected coming out from last season. He was very nice, but they still need to solidify that other side. And I think we're going to get a good peek at Paschal and the other guys on that line to see what they can do.
The other rookie I am really looking forward to see is Kirby Joseph.
Yes. Okay.
Kirby Joseph out of Illinois. Hutchinson, where he'd been there his whole career, but it was really this last year that made him stand out. We knew who Hutchinson was, obviously being Detroit people, Michigan State people, whatever you are, wherever you sit on that rivalry. You knew who Hutchinson was, but really this last season was his breakout season. Kirby Joseph, very much the same way, played a platoon for the first 3 years. He really took over at that safety spot last year. Talking about a guy who's 6'1" with a 6'8" wingspan, which means that even if he gets beat, because he has a tendency to get beat, he can recover and knock away the ball with that length that he has. He has that ball hawking ability. He's a guy that I'm a big fan of this personally. I know a lot of other guys on the other side, but I like guys who rap when they tackle. I don't want a guy that just comes in for the big hit stick and then the guy knocks sideways, but you might not have knocked him off his feet, and he's able to continue moving forward. Kirby Joseph is a guy that raps you when he tackles you, and I'm looking forward to seeing him show off what he can do, as well as improve on his abilities that he is lacking when it comes to ability to fill the run. He sometimes does that a bit out of control when he comes down, losing leverage in pursuit, things like that, where he's lowering his head, very dangerous in contact. He's going to get worked on. We're going to see that with the coaches. We're going to see how he takes that kind of what his attitude is to taking these lessons in, and I'm very curious and interested to see him in these practices.
I love the NFL evolution of defensive backs because I remember the era where they were like 5'9" through 5'10", 5'11". You see these corners and these DBs now coming in with 6'1" frame, long arms, and they putting wood on you. He's putting wood on you and hitting you hard every time. And I think Joseph is going to be a good fit, especially next to Tracy Walker, who just signed his extension. And I couldn't agree with you more. Nothing drove me crazy more than guys like Louis Delmas, who would just shoot in like a rocket and miss, trying to go for that big kill instead of wrapping up and making a sure tackle. They need that more than anything, especially with a shaky secondary. But I think he has all the skill set to make that happen with his frame. So I think he's in good hands, especially, again, I'm very high on Aaron Glenn. I think he's going to get the most out of his guys in the secondary. We saw him do that last season, and I think he's more than capable to do it now with the guys that they just brought in, who they have coming back from last season.
I think you're being very kind just calling that secondary shaky. They are a lot worse than shaky. That is a terrible, god-awful I don't know which is worse, my Michigan State Spartans or my Detroit Lions when it comes to secondary. They are both terrible and make me want to gouge my eyes out watching.
I totally agree, but the only reason I say shaky is because they somehow outperformed through the circumstances of the adversity. They had a lot of injuries. Again, these guys that are coming in are proving themselves that from injury, and then they have to be able to do it again and bounce back. I'm high on what Jerry Jacobs could be. I think Warrior could be big. And again, I'm not going to overreact on Okuda's him jumping up out of a pool with weights. Like, I'm not going to go crazy about that. We need to see what you can do on the field. And that number 3 pick has to be solidified from when they drafted him. This is third season. This is make or break for him. This is huge for him to step out and establish himself as a number 1 guy.
And not just for the Lions. It's huge for Jeff Okudah, because you are talking about a guy that hasn't played a full season yet, and he's going into his 3rd year. And there was all this hype about him coming out of Ohio State. And we have no idea if that hype was deserved or not, because we haven't seen the man on the field. We saw him for a little bit his rookie season. He's a rookie. Rookies never look good when they are in primetime positions like that on the secondary. Wide receivers, when they're dictating the pace as far as running the routes, it's a little easier to look good, a la a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase as a rookie. But on the secondary side, it's tough. It's tough for the veterans to do it, so it's damn tough for the rookies to do it. So we have no idea what Okuda's going to bring to the table. I hope he balls out and shows everyone that he was worthy of that pick. I didn't want that pick personally, and I don't want to go too far back. I'm not mad at Okudah. I'm mad at the Lions for not forcing other teams' hands by grabbing a Tua or a Herbert and then saying, come get him and bring your best package to get him. Instead, they slinkered away and drafted a secondary player instead. But I hope Okudah pans out, and this is it for him, I think. I don't think there's a year 4 if year 3 goes like years 1 and 2.
This is definitely one of those questionable Quinn Trisha picks, and this one has to pan out. This isn't like a one where they can swing and miss. So based on what they have now in the secondary, they need him to be the guy based on what they need. And he needs to do it for himself too, because who knows what's going to happen if he doesn't get his shot. But again, we're going to get a pretty good glimpse at it. Be sure to set your DVR. Check out Hard Knocks, the Detroit Lions. This is their premiere on the show, August 9th, 2022. The first episode, again, is going to be on a Tuesday. Can't explain how excited. I can't contain how excited I am. It's going to be pretty awesome to watch them up on HBO.
All right, so we've mixed 2 topics into one here, which worked to our advantage as far as Hard Knocks as well as us talking about our rookies. Are there any other rookies that you're looking forward to seeing from? Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see too much from Jamison Williams, but are there any other rookies you're looking forward to seeing from?
I think, honestly, a lot of these guys got potential. I think the only one that we haven't talked about yet is James Mitchell, the tight end from Virginia Tech. Hutchinson he's obviously solidified as the number 1 guy, but again, that other side is important too. You can't give Jared Goff too many weapons. He had plenty and succeeded when he was with the Rams, and they're trying to set him up with the exact same thing. And I like that. I think Mitchell could be a pretty big target for him. He's got good hands, very productive off the line. I think he could be important in solidifying the weapons that Goff needs. Again, you can't have too many weapons in the NFL. It's a passing area attack, and he's going to be pretty important. This is going to be a pretty big opportunity for him to establish and set himself as one of the guys for that offense.
Yeah, you're talking about a tight end that's 6'4", 250 pounds. He's a big dude that has great pass catching ability. His run blocking ability needs a little bit of work. And when you have a traditional tight end as your head coach who loved to be that blocking tight end, he's going to ask that from Mitchell. And so I'm with you. I'm very interested to watch their dynamic. I want to see the tight ends talking in general. Obviously, the head coach talking to their tight ends as a former tight end, to me, will be very interesting to see what kind of knowledge he lays on them from his years in the NFL, as well as letting them do their thing. I was all for drafting a tight end in this. I wanted Trey McBride, who would have been an earlier draft pick for the Lions. Right. He was not going to be there when they took James Mitchell in the 5th round, not even close. But having another tight end is absolutely beneficial. We've seen what happens with teams that have 2 good tight ends, how far that offense can go. The Patriots did it very well for a few years before one of their tight ends turned out to be an absolute monster, and not in a good way. The other one was an absolute monster on the field in a great way. But hopefully that we don't have to deal with that same situation in Detroit. No. Hopefully our players stick to just being monsters on the field where they're supposed to be.
That would be lovely. That would be lovely. He's going to be a good company, though. I mean, line it up next to Decker on the left side or line up to Penei Sewell on the right is going to do tremendous honors for. But they're really solidifying that offensive line. We just talked about how important the trenches were on defense. It's going to be huge on the offense as well, with as much young talent as they have and with Jared Goff needing to have a big season. So I think it's a big opportunity for Mitchell to establish himself.
All right, and then our final pick, cornerback Chase Lucas out of Arizona State. Another guy who's a little bit smaller for his position, 5'11", but he's got a 6'3" wingspan. Another one of these team captains, which are important in ways of leadership and knowing what you're getting out of a person. If they're already been a team captain, you know they have that ability in them. He's able to, we've seen, if you watched any of his tape in college, he really trusts his eyes and is able to make plays on the ball. He has enough speed to stay with receivers, but he really does perform a lot better when he's in a zone or playing a little bit off man, where he can see the play happening and react, because he has a really quick burst. And this is something I think we're going to see again in Hard Knocks when we're able to focus on him, is that he might surprise some people in playing bigger than his size.
We can see that. And a good opportunity for him is that I don't think it's a lot of solidification in this lineup or this roster. Knowing how much competition there's going to be on Hard Knocks that we're going to be able to see, we're going to be able to see and give these guys an opportunity to really prove to themselves that they belong here. I like the upside of Lucas. Again, there's not really a lot of solidification in front of him, so he's going to get an opportunity to prove himself. I think he was very productive at Arizona State, and we're going to see. It's going to be pretty interesting to check it out.
Yeah, I think I'm more interested in seeing the defensive side of the ball in Hard Knocks than I am the offensive side of the ball, because a lot of these rookies that we're taking are on the defensive side and are going to be very interesting to watch. So I think that's where my focal point will be when I'm watching this team, watching Hard Knocks, is I think a lot of it will be on the defensive side of the ball, because that's where, like you said, nothing solidified really on the defensive side of the ball. So there's going to be a lot of positions up for grabs.
If there's anywhere where you're going to be biting kneecaps, it's going to be on the defensive side of the ball. And a bunch of the offensive excitement is for Jamison Williams. And again, how much we'll be able to see him is unknown. He couldn't miss up to 6 weeks to start the season because of his injury with his knees. It has to be the focal point of the defense, for sure. Definitely got to be for the defense on the focal.
Yeah.
I'ma get it, you know I be on the way.